Hello, hello. All right, another fun day. I think it's pretty loud, isn't it?
Yeah, we'll get it taken.
Okay, all right. You want me to talk some? Okay. Well, I'm really happy to be here because where you guys live is kind of my background. My Grandpa Phillips, had a dad named Burkhardes that has a street named after him in Tampa, because I'm a seventh generation Floridian. And one of the places I used to go fishing with my grandfather was the Withlacoochee River, where his cabin was. So I just can't wait to go fishing tomorrow. So it's really nice to be here, guys. I really appreciate it. Nice, right? So go ahead.
Everybody, can you hear me okay? Yep. Great. I'm Gary Hamer, the president of the Brooksville chapter of Reasons to Believe, and we are very glad that you're here tonight. We have a very special presentation and a very special presenter for you. Dr. Wayne Phillips is his name, but he goes by Doc. So you can call him Doc and feel good about it. Dr. Phillips is an allergist and an immunologist, and like he just said, he's a seventh generation Floridian, and he is going to share with you some amazing scientific insights about the Shroud of Turin. And I'm not going to steal any thunder. I'm going to let the doc take care of it, and it's yours.
All right, thank you, sir. I am overwhelmed with how nice this place is. It's beautiful. Oh my God, you should be so proud of it. And then you can go hunting tomorrow. 2 blocks away. This is awesome. So this is probably my 224th presentation. And by the way, I'm not going to be lying tonight. I've done this 12 years. All right, I do about 17, 18 a year. So I also change it all the time. And the reason I change it is because I have been invited to be the international group of shroud scientists of the world. I'm one of their communicators. I'm a doctor, but I don't do the real research. But I've been talking for them for that many years. And I get their emails every day. Every time there's something new, boom, goes right on that talk. So what I'm going to be talking about is a subject that I think you're going to like to hear the background of how I got into this business of performing for the man upstairs. I was a singer in the Notre Dame Glee Club, and I was a soloist, and I was on national TV, and I was against Karen Carpenter, and I came in second to Karen Carpenter. But you know what that was all about? It's just about giving me courage to speak to audiences. That's what it was. So I can talk to 1,000 people sitting out here, and because I'm so used to the crowds and performing, I can perform in another way. I still do weddings once in a while. So what happened is I went to Jesuit High School, went to University of Notre Dame, had a wavering faith as a freshman at Notre Dame. So why is that? Because I was a smart aleck. I was really good in high school. I got great grades and got into Notre Dame, and I knew everything, right? So I lost my faith essentially at Notre Dame. Would you believe that? That was founded on faith. Well, that's what happened. And then the man upstairs provided me with a girlfriend. And that girlfriend became my wife. And she doesn't waver in her faith at all. So we're married in 69, and around 75, I'm watching television, and on the TV comes Shroud of Turin, Burial Cloth of Jesus. I went, what is that? I just told you I went to Jesuit in Notre Dame. They didn't say anything to me about that. For some reason, it wasn't talked about. A lot of science hadn't happened yet, all right? So here I am hearing this for the first time, that 2 good schools that's supposed to know this stuff didn't tell me diddly squat. So I was mad. I got mad. I said, how could this happen? And then I said, okay, I got a wife over here that believes what the church says, that it's a relic, and here, me, I don't know what I believe. So I'm going to prove to myself that this is a fake, because I'm an allergist, and it has pollen all over it. So if they try to fake me out with the pollen, it's impossible, all right? So I spent 2 months, I looked at every piece of literature they had put into that shroud on the pollen on it, and it has unique, not fakeable pollen from Jerusalem, but it's only supposed to be in France. We know now it was in Constantinople and all the way to France, all right? So I said, uh-oh, this is real. Then I looked at the blood, and I studied the blood as a doctor, and I got totally convinced, scientifically convinced, because I'm one of those doubting Thomases. I used to be. And I was totally convinced the shroud's real, everything's real, and everything you believe is real, scientifically. So I needed that boost for faith. So my job now is giving people that boost, except your crowd doesn't need a boost. But you need to know about this, because I'm going to arm you with a weapon. I'm going to give you the weapon of the Shroud of Turin, which is a photograph Jesus gave us of himself. And what that's going to be used for and in your fight is going to be your grandchildren, your great-grandchildren, even your children that have fallen away from Christianity. It's not cool. I'm too busy. Okay? Because when they have the little moments and the smart aleck 17-year-old stands in front of you and says, I don't believe in that. You say, well, you want to hear a story about this cloth that it's got over 100 things in it that didn't happen by accident? And if he listens to you, because he loves you, he's probably going to listen some. You have to work at it. You'll be able to spit this stuff out right back at him and go right to the internet with it, and he can look everything up and see everything. So I'm going to give you the ability to go out there and be my helpers, okay, for the people that need some saving. Now we got science to save. That's my whole idea, that this is science now for the first time ever saving. Okay. So channel changer. Oh, it's in my pocket. Okay. That's a good place for it. All right. So I'm telling you what I just said. Scientific proof of the resurrection for the first time in history. You can prove it if you need to have it proved. You guys don't, as I said, but some of your relatives that you love need it. So here's my premise. Either this is a witness to the resurrection, it was there, or it's a medieval fraud. Now, really important when you're convincing these loved ones that the fight is with it being a medieval fake because of carbon dating. All right, we'll get to that. All right. Now, what we have to deal with is the media. That makes me mad. Because since 1977, the first thing I ever saw, first 30 minutes is the shroud's wonderful. It's a miracle, da-da-da-da-da. Second 20 minutes of the show, but Leonardo da Vinci might have painted it. So the show closes always with 50-50 chance this is real. All right? Now that's what you get. You still get that. You still get that with the History Channel, all of them. They still do that. So you still get mad. But they don't let me talk. So that's why it's not going to be fixable. All right, so here we go. So, whoops, wrong way. All right, the cloth itself. This is going to be really, who knows something about the Shroud of Turin? Have you heard about it? All right, so that's good, but I'm going to raise your knowledge to the roof, and everybody else is going to now start believing it. I mean, you don't have to. I had a physicist in the back of one of my talks. He's 20 times smarter than me, and he walked up to me at the end and said, Doc, that was a great presentation. I believe everything you said in detail scientifically, but I just can't accept that that's Jesus. I said, okay, I got you thinking about it, don't I? Yeah, you got me thinking about it. Mission accomplished. So that's what I'm talking about. All right, so this has the appearance, just to you looking at this, of a fresh piece of cloth. It doesn't look like it's 2,000 years old, does it? All right, but it is. And the man upstairs, or the man of the shroud, I'm going to start calling him, the man of the shroud wants it that way. He does not let this thing even age. It really has not an appearance or physicality aged in 2,000 years. except I got the wrong direction. Here we go. All right, so here's what we're dealing with. It's linen, high quality herringbone weave. Joseph of Arimathea was a rich guy. He bought a nice piece of cloth to bury Jesus in. Highest quality possible of the time, 2,000 years ago. Has blood on it, which we're going to get into it. I'm going to tell you everything I know as a doctor. And by the way, I don't lie to my patients. I'm not lying to you. Now, here's the big deal, though. This has an image on it. It has, and you're going to hear the details of what the image is, and we even think we know what happened to the cloth to make it happen. Of course, we don't know the miracle of the situation. But it has an image, and nobody that thinks the shroud is a fake has ever succeeded in getting close to making a copy of it. Okay? All right, so here's what we have to understand what we're going to start talking about. Just for a beginning, if you're talking about faking Jesus and you're an artist, are you going to draw pictures of Jesus nude and give it to the local bishop and think he's going to be happy? No. So when you see the man of the shroud's image on the shroud and he is nude, you're going to know that a man didn't paint it. Because a man wouldn't give a picture of Jesus to a bishop and get out of there without being locked up. All right? So this is where he was. He was totally nude in rigor mortis after about 6-8 hours hanging on the cross. They didn't take him down that long. And his body, his muscles froze in position. Okay, so they're frozen in position. So you're looking at this and you're saying, well, what the heck? How come his hands are down? Because they break rigor mortis by just pushing your arms down against the muscles, and it breaks the tissue, dislodges your shoulder. He's dead at the time, okay? So that's why the arms are down. But you can see his knees are bent. So he died like this. Knees bent. So they had no reason to change the position of the knee. So his knees are bent as he collapsed on those nails. All right, now, when he got to the tomb, it was some kind of rock, and they put the shroud on it, and then they laid the body on it, and they curled around the top of the shroud on top of it. Now I'm going to show you something really interesting we just found out about a year ago. All right, so when they curled the top around on it, he has one half of the shroud touching the top of his body, and the other half is touching the bottom backside of his body. All right? Now, what I'm going to tell you right now, right off the top to get your mind going, this shroud on the top has an image of his body on this side where it's touching, and almost 50% image on the other side where it isn't touching. Sounds absurd, right? It's true. This piece has an image of his back on the top side, and there's a rock on the other side. There's no image on the underside cloth. So that's bizarre, all right? And I'm going to tell you what science says is the reason this has front and back, and this has only front. It's already got you thinking, I can see. I can hear the wheels moving. All right. Now, here's the shroud. My wife and I went to see it. It's in Turin, Italy. We saw it in 2015. About every 15, 20 years, you can go see it. And it's not tough to see. You get an appointment by a computer, and you go in this long tent line, but you're only like the 50th person, not the 2 millionth person, because you show up at the right time of day. So if you ever want to go, you can go over there and not wait in line that much. All right, so I got up near it. I took this picture. Of course, I made it a little darker so it'd show it up better. There's the guard, and we're about 15 feet away. Now, when you look at this, first, it's unimpressive. So let's start out, since I got some time here. If you get within 10 feet of it, you can't see the image of the head, the arms. It becomes blurred because you're too close, and it's not that sharp. But as soon as you get back 15 feet, you can make out a head, a chest, arms, knees, space on the top of the head because it's curled around, back of the head, back, maybe even scourge marks, where you're going to see a lot better, back of the knees and the feet. All right, so this is what I took that far away. So I was standing there 15 feet from the blood of Jesus Christ looking at it. It's overwhelming. And when you go outside, you stand there and you just can't even move. That's what that was like. All right, now I got the computer getting on this picture and making it even a little easier to see, turning up the contrast, front image, back image. So this thing is cut out in the time of Jesus. Those are cubits. So it's exactly 8 cubits long and 2 cubits wide. In feet, it's about 14 feet by 3. Now you can see all these triangles of white. Those are patches done because the bad guys have been trying to destroy the shroud forever. So it was in a church in Chambéry, France, and they burned the church down. So it was inside of a silver case, and the temperature went up, and molten silver was dropping on the shoulder inside the case. So this was folded up. So miracle number 1 is it dropped the molten silver on his shoulders, so we lost his shoulders, but we didn't lose his face or anything else in the middle. So somebody protected the direction of the drops. All right, here's a little better close-up. Now, this is going to be something we just discovered like 6 months to a year ago. All right, so looking at whether this is fake or not, what would your brain tell you? This man is shorter than this man, and they're the same man. So this cloth was not put down by and drawn by an artist to be perfect. It was because the body was lying down with the foot down, and here the foot is up. And when they hastily put the cloth on his body and wrapped it around, they ran out of cloth when they got to the toes. So the cloth, of course, has an image that's 4 inches shorter on the left and the right. You get it? Now, is that a painter? No, that's a disciple. All right, so there's one of the minor proofs that this has to be real. That's what we're going to do. We're going to spend the evening going through all the proofs. All right, so obviously it starts out circumstantial because nobody's writing a newspaper about it. So it's 30 to 70 AD in Jerusalem. Then we think for safekeeping, they take it to Edessa, Turkey. It sits there under the different kings in succession from 7944, ends up in Constantinople. The army then picks it up. The Knights Templar pick it up. They have it for 150 years somewhere in France, and then it makes it to documented. That's when human beings are recorded in literature to be sitting there 100,000 at a time looking at it. Lire, France, 1355, Chambéry, where the fire was, and 1578 in Turin, Italy. That's a quick little tour. I could spend an hour talking about the details. All right, so what happened during this time? So what happens for proof that this is real is that the appearance of artists, their impression of what Jesus looked like, totally changes in 525 AD. Let me explain that. So before 525, Jesus was thought to by artists to be clean-shaven young guy, no beard, no mustache. This is what appeared as the image of Edessa. But in 525, something happened. And we think in 525, the guys, the kings that ran the show there, allowed the shroud to be seen by the public. So now the artists can change their picture by looking at the shroud. And this is painted in 525 AD, the Jesus that we know. Mustache, beard, long hair. All right, so this is called the Pantocrator, and this thing exists in a Mount Sinai museum. You can go see it. 550 AD it was painted, after 525 when the artists were allowed to see the shroud. All right, now, points of congruence. This is a science part. How do we know they're looking at the shroud, or they just did a random thing out of their mind, made it up? You take the picture of the shroud and you make it a digital image and you overlay it over the picture. You know what I'm talking about? All right. The distance between the pupils is exactly the same from when you consider the shroud and the picture as the picture itself. Distance from the pupil to the tip of the nose, same. Width of the mouth, same. So 120 different positions prove the person that drew the picture had to be looking at the shroud, or he could never have got 120 things right. So that means the shroud existed in 525, 550 AD. Carbon dating says it only existed in 1240. You see what I'm saying? We're fighting that carbon dating theory till I get to the story, and then you'll see why it's nonsense. All right. Now we get up and we move over to Constantinople. Now, this is the fun part, when I got to go to Budapest and see a Bible painting inside that was in Constantinople when it was done by an artist. But wait till you see the details that the artist had to have made up out of the clear blue sky, because Jesus doesn't exist. All right? That's my wife and I and the museum curator looking at this painting. So let's look at it. All right. So this is called the Hungarian Prey manuscript. It's kept in Hungary, and it was done in 1196. That's 200 years or 150 years younger than carbon dating. This is the depiction of Good Friday. So what do you have again? We got a nude Jesus again. Oh, get in trouble with the bishop. He's nude. His arms are crossed. He's got long hair. And look over here, you're going to see a better shot at it. Jesus, for some reason, didn't have thumbs. Did you know that he was born without thumbs? Yeah, baloney, okay? This is what is on the shroud. The shroud man has no thumbs. And there is a scientific reason, which I'm going to tell you, other than they amputated it. That is not what happened, all right? So the man on the shroud image has no thumbs. So that means the artist in 1196 did not make that craziness up. He saw it. He saw these things. And down here we saw the herringbone weave of the shroud and some little dots that I'm going to go into different detail. This is Easter Sunday when they came to anoint his body. All right, now here was a close-up. There's the picture, no thumbs. This person has thumbs. This person does not have thumbs. All right, now, this is a herringbone weave. But this herringbone weave has 4 burn holes in it in the shape of an L. Okay, so did the artist make that up? Did he decide to paint 4 burn holes in the shape of an L out of his mind, or was he looking at the shroud that has the same 4 burn holes? You see the chance of that happening is like 1 in a million. These things are adding up now. No thumbs, 4 burn holes. All right. So, next point. It finally makes its way to Italy. It was owned for 400 years by the kings of Italy, personally. And the last one, before he lost control and the government of Italy took over, was 1983. He willed the shroud to whoever the Pope is. So it always stays in the Cathedral of St. John the Baptist. You can see that. And it's under bomb-proof argon gas steel case. That's where it's kept and only shown to the public every 15, 20 years. If you go now when it's not being under exhibition, that's what you're going to see. All right, now we're going to get into the science. This is what the physicist agrees, who doesn't have faith. All right, so photography was invented in 1818. The first time physical science was used on the shroud was 1898. That's because they took a picture. So this is the first photo of the image of the man's face, the man of the shroud, taken in 1898. Now, you've all had, anybody here over 30? All right. So we used to take our film to the drugstore and get it developed, and we get negatives and then positives, right? So I was looking at my negative, and I always dark. So the image on the shroud is a photographic negative because the man is dark, so it acts like a negative. Now, why is that? Because this is a result of what we now say, I'll skip ahead a little, of energy, a light energy that kind of singed it and made it turn from white-yellow to brownish, okay? So the energy of the resurrection made this dark and made an image that we call photographic negative. But this is not with a negative. I didn't take it to the drugstore yet. So now I take this to the drugstore. Oh, let me just make sure you understand. All right, so photographic negative is what you're used to. And this is what you get when you get handed the prints, right? So you all know what I'm talking about. The 20-year-olds don't know what I'm talking about. All right, so in the darkroom, Secondo Pia, amateur photographer, lawyer, made a negative of a negative. So what is that in math? A negative is a positive. So the positive picture of Jesus for the first time of the human race showed up at that time, and here it is. Now that is overwhelming, more detail, looking like a human than the other one. See what I mean? There you go. This is the positive, and this is the photographic negative, which is a positive. 528 years later, from the medieval fraud that carbon dating said took place. I mean, before, excuse me, not later. 500 years later, that's what happened. All right, so obviously it's not even related. All right, now cameras get better. 1931, Henri does an even better picture with a better camera 33 years later. And now you got this. All right, so this is a really good picture. So what you see now is more detail. You have hair, but where are his ears? They're not there. Where are his cheeks? They're not there. I'm saying all this because it's true. That's the image of the shroud. And now later I'm going to explain where they went. There's blood in his hair. There's blood all the way down his long locks. Blood in the hair. Not on his cheek, in the hair. This is the right side of his body. That's where the sword went in, or the lance went in. And out is coming trickling water mixed with blood running along the front and going behind him. And then the abdomen is all distended from breathing and not getting the breath out because he got tired of, every time he was hanging there and had to take a breath in, he would do that pretty easy. But when he had to blow it out, he had to use all muscle power to push it out. And that means he didn't get it all out, and he ended up swallowing it. So his abdomen became distended with air, and his chest was overexpanded because he was getting tired of emptying his lungs out. It took effort. Blood is trickling down his arm here. You can see the detail of a river, not a broken river, a completely intact river. So the cloth touching him at the moment of the resurrection, when he changed position, disappeared. The body disappeared. It didn't, he just yanked the cloth off because it would have broken the clots. All right, so that's proof that he didn't just yank the cloth off. All right, let's see what else. There's a no thumbs again. Now this is interesting. This is a nail in his wrist, but it has two positions to it. The bleeding has two positions. So when your wrists are like this, the blood's coming out one way, but when you change the angle of it, it comes out on another river. So he keeps going up and down, trying to breathe, and that thing is developing two rivulets of clotted blood streaming. You get that? That shows his body was in motion, bleeding out of the same opening. Got it? Okay. So you see how these are adding up? That the medieval forger is the smartest man in history, or he was from Mars or something. All right. Now, this is the back. You can see what's almost 150 scourge marks all over him. And here we think there's an abrasion in his one shoulder on the right side from carrying the crossbeam. The crossbeam only was rubbing his back. That's what we think we have here. We have scalp blood everywhere, not just in a basket weave crown, but all over the top of his head and sides and everything. He's nude again. He's got his knees flexed. All right, now, something really good happens. The United States of America is developed higher than any country in the world, and we know what we're doing scientifically. So 45 years later, 1976, Pope Pius says, boy, those Americans are smart. I'm going to let somebody with science touch the shroud. So he let them touch the shroud. All right? The reason he did that is because America was already sending satellites to the moon, and on it was a computer camera called the VP-8 image analyzer. And that thing would look down at the surface of the moon and take a picture of a mountain. Then the mountain would tell Houston how tall it was, how deep the valley was. So it was picturing top and bottom of mountain. So actually it was doing 3D. It was figuring out that kind of stuff. So it was a 3D camera. All right? 3D images of the surface of the moon. The closer the VP-8 satellite was to the top of the mountain, the stronger the image. Likewise, the closer the cloth is to the nose versus the ear, the stronger the image at the nose, the weaker at the ear. Okay? I think you follow me. Okay. All right, now a little bit about the 3D. So if you put a regular picture of a human into the VP8 image analyzer, you get this. Mushy junk, you don't know what you're looking at, it's all confusing. But if you put the picture of Jesus, man of the shroud, into the VP8 image analyzer, physics professor, U.S. Air Force Academy, Dr. Jackson, 1976, had that idea. And the joke is, I was at a conference in Colorado with him because he's the head of a whole service that enlists us in an army to go out and give these talks. I had a break and I asked him, what possessed you to put this picture into the VP8, right? So thank God there was a break because it only lasted 15 minutes, the conversation. I didn't understand one word he said. It was all physics. I just went, All right, so it was something to do with physics. But anyway, the real reason is God motivated him. This is what he got. This is a 3D image of a man from what's supposed to be a 2D picture. So that means not only was it a photographic negative, but it was encoded with 3D data that only 1976 humans could figure out. It's aimed at us. This whole thing is aimed at us. So America put a team together, Shroud of Turin Research Project, 32 U.S. scientists, Los Alamos, Lockheed, IBM, Air Force Jet Propulsion Lab, Brook Institute, all these disciplines, everybody's one of these, and they all run off to Italy, and every single one was a know-it-all scientist. We said the shroud's got to be a fake. We don't believe this, right? That's what they said on the way over. All right? So who were they religiously? 40 American scientists, 38 were professed agnostics, not atheists. 2 were real Christian believers, 3 were raised Catholic, 34 Protestant, and 3 Jewish guys go to see Jesus. They all arrived thinking the shroud is a fake. Every single one said it's not a fake. Now, why did they say it's Jesus? Because they're honest scientists and they don't want to step out of science. So they say, this is not a fake. This is a real image. We don't know how it got created. We don't understand it, but it's not a fake. Okay, so that's what they should say. A scientist is not supposed to say it's Jesus. He does that in private. All right, this is when they arrived. That's Professor Jackson putting the shroud out to be examined. All right, and there's where we got into the pollen part. So in 1978, they took some slides back to America, and they started looking at it and found all the pollen that I know about. And some guy duplicated the whole thing in 2004. 3 types of pollen only found in Israel and the whole world. 14 types found in the Middle East. 58 types found in Istanbul, Turkey, and France, where the shroud took its travels. And all this was happened, according to the medieval guy, is impossible, because all this happened 376 years before there was a microscope. So how did the medieval forger, 376 years before a microscope, put pollen all over the shroud? He didn't know what he was doing. He just knew the bees did something with it. All right? So one of the pollens is Gundelia terniforti, 27% of the pollen on the shroud. This was all around his head, because this matches a plant filled with thorns. So the crown of thorns plant could have easily been Gundelia terniforti. This is what the plant looks like when you take all the leaves off of it. Not too nice. All right, human blood. So when they got back to America with samples of the blood, they found out it was blood type AB, human blood. My little brain makes a little, I guess it's a statement, but I still believe it. And blood typing and cross-matching and getting blood at the hospital, AB blood is called the universal receiver. So if you have an AB type blood, you can take blood from anybody. So that's what Jesus is. I think that he did that on purpose for the doctors, so we could say, well, guess who's the universal receiver? He receives everyone to him. DNA is all over the shroud, but it's in broken strands, so that we're not going to be cloning Jesus. It definitely has an X and Y chromosome, and the X we know came from his mother, and the Y came from his daddy. And that's the way it goes, even though I don't understand. Other that is a miracle. Now, what's left in the blood is mitochondrial DNA. Mitochondria is an energy part of a cell. So it's all over the shroud, but nobody's gotten permission to look at the DNA, and that represents the mother's DNA. So all over the shroud are blood samples that someday we may get permission to measure the chromosome and DNA from it and match the lineage of Mary. That's possible. Nobody's got permission, not checked yet. All right, the other thing that the shroud scientists of America said when they first saw the shroud is, this is all a fake because this blood here is red, not black. They used to handling dead bodies and murder scenes, and the blood turns black in about 4 days. This guy had red blood, red blood. So why is that? They got back to America. A Jewish chemist studied it. He came up with the conclusion it's filled with bilirubin. What the heck is bilirubin? Bilirubin is a yellowish red color inside of red blood cells. So when a person is beat and tortured and whipped, the red cells that are in his circulation are getting smacked and they're breaking open. So in his circulation, those red blood cells are leaking bilirubin into his circulation. So the remaining red blood cells are sucking up the bilirubin and turning redder and redder and redder. So when he bleeds that out, those red blood cells have a lot of bilirubin. And that's why his blood, even to today, is reddish, not black. You get that? All right. So, little summary. The medieval forger guy who says it's all a fake, he needs to explain photonegativity, 3D imaging, pollen identification, blood on the shroud, human blood, and tortured blood. So if he invented all that, wow, he's something else. All right, now, 1978, 2007, we start studying the chemistry of the image. It's the same American team. All right, so these are all the equipment. You know, fluorescence spectroscopy, thermography, pyrolysis, all these things, it's too hard to say. All right, so Stirp proves the image is not a painting. That's essentially what their first job was. There's no paint on this thing. There's nothing on the shroud but debris and blood. But you have an image, right? So how's that going to be? All right, so now we know, looking at this photograph, this is a fiber. This is a fibril. 200 little fibrils make up a fiber, kind of like a cable. And down below is some blood. But on the surface of every fiber, there's nothing. This is a visible light microscope looking at this stained area, and there's no paint in the image area. The image is made out of fiber. This is Dr. Jackson looking with spectroscopy. So what the heck is that? That's a microscope that looks at the image surface and throws waves lengths of light at it, and the light bounces back, and it says what bounced off that shroud is magnesium, sulfur, chloride, all the different elements of the periodic table. And when they balanced out what that light was, the elements of the periodic table that bounced off the image were nothing. There was nothing on the threads that was an element of the periodic table other than linen. You can see the detail that was done here. Then they aimed an X-ray at the image of Jesus. What did the X-ray do? Went right through the image, because the image is a cloth. But the blood stopped the image. Okay? Another thing is, nothing's there but cloth. So it's not a painting, not a drawing, not a rubbing, not a scorching, we're putting it on a hot statue, not a photograph, not a bleaching. So that's what Stirp knew at that point, what it isn't. Only now, in the last 5-6 years, do they know what it probably is, which I'm going to tell you. Oh, I already told you. All right, it's a superficial, quote, burn, unquote. So the top surface of a single fibril, which is 1/10 the width of a human hair, is affected by the energy of the resurrection that changed the color from very whitish to yellowish brown in a pixelated style. You know what pixels are? Okay, all right. So the linen flax was pixelated by some kind of, get ahead of myself, energy that only affected an area. So there's a pixel here and a non-pixel there. Without that, you don't have any image. You don't even have a picture. So here's essentially what I'm doing in a drawing. That's where the image resides. That's a single fiber. So it's dehydrated cellulose, flax. Image does not penetrate the fiber. So here is mass going into energy with the same formula as an atomic bomb. Mass goes into energy, atomic bomb. But this atomic bomb at the moment of the resurrection was so controlled and so perfect that it couldn't go into the thread. It stayed on the surface. That's another miracle. Now, the Italians, I think it's about 6 years ago, got some excimer lasers, 2012, there you go, it's 11 years ago. And they aimed it at the same type of linen, at the right pulse, power, and length of time, and they just about duplicated the depth of burn that's in the shroud linen. So now we know that obviously Jesus had 5.2 billion lasers with him, and he aimed at the shroud, and we got a picture, okay? All right, well, that's what it would take to have the image of Jesus on a shroud is 5.2 billion lasers shooting at the same time. All right, so here's how we get this. Why is it 3D? Here's the cloth lying on the unresurrected Jesus, touching his nose, chin, chest, hands, toes, with a space in between. And then the resurrection happens, and the energy and the body goes through space, still makes it. And of course, it's strong where it's touching, but it's weaker where it has to jump space. And that weakerness is what makes it stronger image, stronger top, and gives it to 3D. And the other point is, image forms where there's no contact with the body. Now, if you get out 7, 8, 9 inches away, the energy dissipates. It's gone. It doesn't reach that far. Again, unbelievably controlled energy. All right, now how does this also agree with the Bible? Pretty darn close. Scourging, crowning, nailing. Wait till you see this. All right, this is a scourge instrument, the Robin flagrum. This is it's taking pieces, chunks out of his back of the shroud, 120 medically perfect scourge marks. This is actually a blown up, full-size picture of his back with the Roman flagrum falling right into those marks. Now, the crown of thorns, of course, wasn't a crown of thorns because the time of the crucifixion, they didn't have time to spend a half hour weaving a perfect crown. That was done for artist's sake. The shroud shows it was a clump of thorns ripped off a bush and smacked on his head with a piece of wood because he has blood marks all over the top of his head, not just in the crown form. So it's really a cap of thorns that he wore, and Gundilia Turniforti is the best candidate. Almost 30 bleeding sites have been counted all over his scalp. And this is what they depict it looked like, which kind of makes sense because if this existed, let's say in France, and you're in control of it because you're the king of France, and you got your buddy comes over to visit, oh, would you like a piece of the crown of thorn? He breaks off a piece. Because another one comes, he gets another piece. So by the time it gets to about 200 years later, it might look like a crown. All right, now the next thing is the artists have also had it wrong here. So what we see all the time is pictures of Jesus with a nail in the palm of his hand. But the palm has just flesh in it. It doesn't have bones. So when you put 90 pounds of weight on a nail in the palm of the hand, it rips right out. So there's no way medically, physically, that you can hang somebody on a cross with a nail in his palm. So the shroud shows exactly that. It shows that the nail is in his wrist. Total bones. It could hold him up easily. All right, so the shroud proves that it was in the wrist. It went, of course, between his bone, didn't break a bone, and that supports his weight. So here's what the shroud shows. There's his fingers. Here's his fingers here. This is the metacarpals right here. So he looks like he got crazy long fingers, but that's just the metacarpals and the carpals. And up here you can see the wrist. That's where I was showing you the two positions. So the nail is in the wrist, not in the palm. Now, when the nail goes through the wrist, here comes the secret of the missing thumbs. When it goes through the wrist, it bisects or cuts a nerve that tells the thumb what to do. All right, so when it cuts off the thumb with the nail, the thumb goes into spasm and it goes like this. So when the image comes forward, where's the thumb? It's there, it's just curved around under the hand. And you actually can perceive a little bit that it's hard to see it, but I think some people can see that it's a little thicker over here. But it's curved in. So now, they didn't cut his thumbs off, but that nerve was wiped out. Can you imagine the word excruciating? That comes from crucifixion. That was definitely excruciating. Median nerve dissected. There you go. All right, so this is the end of the 100 things, but I'm just going to now tell you about science and the image. So that many years go by, 100 facts, I didn't have time for all of them, published in scientific journals everywhere, say the shroud is real. Then all of a sudden in 1988, one of the popes gives permission for carbon dating, and it turns into be a disaster because it says, proof to the world, the shroud's a fake. It was created 1260 to 1390, pulled out of the ground, and some guy painted it. Of course, it didn't get painted. All right, so what does that do? It ruins all the shroud investigation. All the good American team, STIRP team, all go into hiding. We're all upset. I'm depressed and I'm nobody. No research happens for 13 years. And then all of a sudden, the true believers, the people of faith that don't need the shroud or don't need anything, they wouldn't let go of the fact the shroud was real. So they got on telephones and wrote letters to the scientists of the STIRP team, begging them to think of something else because they must have missed it. And the scientists got tired of the phone calls because they're all easy to get tired. And they called that group the Lunatic Fringe. All right, so one day, a member of the Lunatic Fringe, this very nice nurse, is watching television in 1997, and she looks at the shroud's picture on the screen that was used in the carbon-14. She sees the picture of the cloth. She says, there's something wrong with that picture. I don't understand. I'm really suspicious. So she spends about 2 months staring at the screen, the piece of cloth, and then she comes up with this idea. And it ends up being right. All right, so when they did the carbon-14, all the nations of the world agreed they were going to take 6 sample sites and send it to 6 labs. But the Italian scientists, where America had jumped over and jumped in front of them and did all the science, and they were left out in the cold, big smart America, they decided to get even with America. I'm saying that in a sentence, it's true. I love Italians anyway. All right, but they did not invite the USA to the actual sampling of the shroud. They kept it a secret. They invited all the C-14 lab people. The United States was not represented. The United States had no input on where to take samples. They thought they were going to do 6. These smart guys decided, we're only going to do 1 sample. We don't need 6. So they did 1. And they sent it to 3 labs and broke it into pieces. No America. All right, here's what they did. This is a 14-foot long cloth. They went to the corner, right where people would hold on to it in the last 900 years to show it, and their hands would hit it, and the wind would blow, and they can easily rip it. So in the area where repair, this actually is a patch job of something that's not related to carbon-14, but shows you how it was patched. This patch was put on 300 years before this. So right here is where they took the sample, right next to the patch job. They didn't take it here, 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 little postage stamp. They took it right there, all right? Right next to the repair site. Now here is fluorescent light hitting that area. So over here is a whole shroud that has all the chemicals of being orange. But when you get near where the sample was taken, it seems to be totally different chemically. That's because this is not linen, this is cotton. They didn't know that. They weren't getting enough help. So they took the sample out of this. This was done by America. So they had these to look at, but they just ignored it. They went into a green area when the whole shroud is orange. All right, this is a sample that she was looking at. All right, Marina. Sue Benford and Marino. They noticed a misaligned weave. Now let's have you notice it. On this side is linen, on this side is cotton. So this is meshed together by the highest level of tapestry artists, and you can barely make out that there are better strings of white rectangles here and weaker ones here. But when you get a close-up, it gets pretty obvious. This is linen, fine linen, perfect little rectangles of reflected light and narrow channels, fat channels, very wide channels, beat up looking linen, cotton. You see how that does not look the same, right? All right? So this proves that a fine connection was made between cotton and linen, and they sampled something that was half and half. Cotton was from the year 1500. Linen was from the year 2000. Carbon dating gets all messed up when you do that. All right, so here's the results of the carbon dating. This is really going to be super amazing. So Arizona, thank God, had a piece on this side of the sample. This is the sample I showed you. And they also were given a piece over here. And accidentally, they did them both. So the first thing that makes you suspicious, if Oxford said this came out of the ground in 1246, Zurich said it came out of the ground in 1376. Arizona on the first run said no, it came out of the ground in 1430. But what did Arizona say to itself? Well, I'm sorry, but the guy next door to me who did the other one said it came out of the ground in 1238. So they are disagreeing with each other by 192 years, and that's only 4 inches. You do that to a caveman's cloth, they're going to be all the same. So the word is homogeneous or heterogeneous, right? Homogeneous, everything's the same. Heterogeneous, all different. So this is all different. So this is a line that I drew that shows where cotton is on one side from 1500 being burned together in one lab with real linen, giving you a fake result. You get it? All right, now, recently, like within 2 years ago, 4 years ago, this raw data the Italians sued those carbon-14 labs for the raw data. They don't want their interpretation. So with the computers and the modern era, they put that in a computer, and it showed you how wrong they were. Arizona was the one that was the youngest, 1498 piece, was the one that was farthest crazy. So this whole thing was off and totally heterogeneous, not homogeneous of a single piece of cloth. So the cloth had different dates all over the place. Only could happen if it was mixed. Got it? So that story of carbon-14 is out the window. There's no such thing. Never was carbon dated. If they want to do it, they're going to have to get permission again. All right, so the skeptic, when he heard the stuff from the nurse, he said, she's full of baloney. There's no way this is true. This is not a patch job. I don't believe you. I have the original samples. I'm going to go look at it. He spends 5 hours looking at it, and he finds out she's right. He found out he saw linen stuck together with some kind of glue, end on end with a fiber of cotton all over his sample that he never saw before. He saw the dyeing attempt by the Middle Ages people. I don't know how old they are. Cotton is overdone with yellow, and here the linen is in white. So cotton comes out white, but here they put too much dye. So this is a screw-up, another patch job between linen and cotton. You see what they did? This is unbelievable how they stick 2 threads together. So the Rogers conclusion was in 2005 that Z14 labs were accurate because they were given garbage. Garbage in, garbage out. They sampled junk. So the sample was flawed. A reweaving patch was responsible for the error. Carbon dating is out. So now you're going to hear enthusiasm, more science, all the way from 5 to 23, new theories on the image. Y'all need a break? All right, we'll keep going. All right, so 2015, I go to the Shroud Science Conference, where I've been invited as one of the presenters. And then I have to leave that conference, and I have 3 new presentations on how the body's energy turned into something that made an image. 3 different stories, right? So I'm all confused. So I'm always confused anyway. So I get on an airplane, right? I'm looking at my cell phone on the airplane, and right in front of my face is a picture that tells me which one of those theories is right. Because my joke is, this guy told me. That's me. That's the scientist who had one of the theories. And that's a halo that Jesus put over his head to tell me he's right. It's obvious, right? I'm sticking to it. So Dr. Jackson with a halo, actually a chandelier, tells me on the airplane, stick to his theory, buddy. He's right. So here's what he said. This is how the image was made, our best hypothesis or guess as of 2023. All right, so what do we have to do? When you have a guess, you have to fulfill criteria. The criteria is, this better explain why he doesn't have cheeks or ears. It better explain why there's blood in the hair. We have to explain why it's pixelated. We have to explain how we think we actually see some teeth. You get a little feeling you're looking at teeth here? See the up and down? But it's not for sure. That's why I can't say for sure. But his mouth would have been shut. So if your teeth are showing, there's some kind of x-ray thing making that available. But that's not for sure. So no cheeks. His hair is not touching his side. There's a big space. So that has to be part of the requirement that Dr. Jackson had to come up with. He did. Next thing he had to come up with, pre-image formation, pre-resurrection, that cloth is sticking to his blood. He's got scab formation. It's all drying out. The cloth and his blood is becoming one thing. You know, you bleed into your shirt. If you rip it off, you start bleeding. All right? So that is all stuck to him. So that blood is embedded in the fibers. And here we have to deal with the fact that it wasn't. Because we have a stream that hasn't been broken by a guy that stood up with embedded blood, and we have blood that did not come off on the shroud. Did not stay with the body. Stuck to the shroud, all right? There's only one way that would ever happen is the body disappears, and what's left as outside the body is blood. And the blood sticks to the shroud, but the body's gone. All right, so the shroud had to change positions from wrapping to flat, or you wouldn't have a picture. You don't have a picture of anything unless the surface of the picture is flat. All right? So it had to change positions without disturbing the blood. So this is Dr. Jackson's fall-through theory. The body became mechanically transparent. That means it didn't have the mechanics to hold up the weight of the shroud. So the bottom shroud is lying there already, not going anywhere, but the upper shroud is going to not be supported by a body anymore because the body's going to disappear. So in the act of disappearing, this shroud falls through the body. So he calls it the fall-through theory. This makes a lot of sense to most people, scientists of the world now. So if you're looking at the top of his head, this is the back of his head, this is his nose. The shroud is wrapped around him, around his head. All right, the blood is coming off his cheek, sticking to the shroud on both sides, and it's Friday. The bottom doesn't go anywhere because when this body disappears, that's already touching rock. The shroud is going to fall through the body. So what it does, it falls through the body at the exact rate and speed to run out of energy when it gets to the ears. So the mass of the body is mostly gone, and all that mass turning into energy to make an image is down to almost zero, so the ears don't make an image because the ears were gone already. The cheek was gone already, no image. That's why the body has no ears and no cheeks. Runs out of mass. You understand? All right. And then totally went through the body. Cloth all flops together. No body. Dematerialization. The mass turns into energy, but Jerusalem didn't blow up. So this is what happened. And it's a joke, but it's reality. You know Star Trek, right? Beam me up, Scotty. You disappear. Okay, well, that's what he did. One day, if we're good and we go to heaven, he might explain it. Right now, I don't understand anything. All right, so what did I just show you? The shroud is legally guilty of being real. That's called preponderance of the evidence. Any lawyers in here will know the evidence adds up. All right, historical references, artists and things I showed you, public expositions, photonegativity, 3D encoding, not a painting, chemistry of the image and pixelation, refutation, C14, copying image pixels by laser light, and 24 science is trying like crazy and can't get close to making an image. All right? So what was the point of this? What did we accomplish? We now have 100% proof a dead human body vacated the shroud. We have a dead human body put an image on the shroud. We have no evidence, 100%, close, that it was Jesus. And the reason I say close is because we see scourging, crown of thorns, lance on the side. Thousands of crucifixions, but nobody had all that. All right? So that is probably evidence 100% that it's Jesus, but, not perfect. So we will never have 100% evidence scientifically, because what is that going to be? That's going to be a DNA match. So I don't think Jesus is going to show up here and give a sample of blood to give us a DNA match with the blood on the shroud. Do you? So faith, after all that information intellectually, blowing your mind, you still got to have faith, because it's not 100% proof. We can't do DNA matching with Jesus. So there you go. First selfie, I'm sticking to it. So ask me any question you want, I'm done. And if you got to go somewhere, it's okay. I can take it. 223 times, I can take anything. Thank you. Yes, sir. Well, the stuff that's all under a year, I'm not sure. I haven't seen anybody say it. But the physicist that talked to me was about 4 years ago. And he's secular, and he doesn't believe in, I know he's an agnostic, I guess. But he's saying, I believe what you said, but I can't accept Jesus as da-da-da-da-da. I said, okay. No, I haven't read. The secular world out there is still trying to disprove it. Up until a couple of years ago, everything they wrote, they're trying to disprove it. But I kind of think they're getting laughed out of town. There's the more that happens, and the computers that run the numbers on the raw material and say, how can you believe this carbon dating when the numbers are all different everywhere? I mean, it's just adding up that they're all just obviously making stuff up. Yes? No. It would have to be, I made a joke, but it's not a joke. The only people that could do that would have to be from another planet. And they have to be able to do what Star Trek does. Turn matter into energy without blowing up something. In my world of science, which is I'm not the smartest guy in the joint, and the physicist that's way smarter, there's no other way to say it. It can't be fake. Too many things are too perfect. Absolutely. It's like 0.1% debatable in my opinion, because I'm trying to be a scientist. My heart says it's impossible. My brain says, no, it's not impossible because we don't have DNA. Okay? But if your heart and your brain are that close, that's pretty good. Wait a minute. He's got a second question. I'll be right to you. What? No, I don't think the Catholic Church in general, every single member believes it. Some of them think it's not important and they ignore it. I mean, I have parishes I go to and the priests don't even show up to the talk sometimes. Well, sure. In their minds, if they believe it, they don't want you messing with it. That's right. That actually is probably what some of the uppers think. We already got burned once on this carbon dating. We're not going to do it again. Everybody just laughs at us anyway. 50% cotton. Yep. So it actually has the ability to go out and be tested, except for one scientific fact I didn't tell you yet. All right, let's pretend it's a perfect world, and we're allowed to do carbon dating again. But what we don't know yet is the following potential, that neutron radiation was part of dematerialization. Matter turns into energy, and what if neutrons radiated the matter? That means close to the body. No, I'll say it the other way. Far from the body, the numbers come back. Carbon dating is 1100. Far away from the body, it's 10. Right next to the body, the year that spits out of the carbon dating machine because of neutron radiation says it was created in the year 4596. 2,000 years in the future. So we don't know diddly squat of what we're talking about. Because we don't know what that energy was. So when they get permission, we might all go 4,000 years. We're idiots, because we are. In this whole scheme of things, we're idiots. Yes? No. No, yeah, to do carbon dating, you need a new piece. Yeah, but you know, like a fingernail. Yes. Now actually 6 months ago, somebody invented a new method that's dating cloth. I don't even understand it. I haven't read it enough to get it. But it does have promise. It just hasn't been accepted and worked out yet. So out there in the world is a new scientific method to measure ancient cloth that I don't even remember the name. You remember the name? There's a name, you can Google it, all right? But it's there, but we're not sure it's right yet. Yes? No, you mixed up two sentences. All right. So Joseph did not provide the Y chromosome. All right, so he's out of the picture. So we're only talking about Mary. And Mary provides only X chromosome material. So in the mitochondria, not the nucleus where the X and Y are, mitochondria only has mother's lineage. So they could start looking at the blood, digging out the mitochondria and pulling out the X chromosome DNA, string it out, and go to some place where Mary's from and talk to her great-great-great-great-great-great-grandmother and have a match. No, they ain't got permission for that. That's my dream, but yes. No, it has to be to have a human. So the miracle of the production of a Jesus is God provided the Y. God. No, it would be male stuff made by God. God set up, no, it'd be the same. God set up the laws of the world, and the laws of the world of nature are an X and Y chromosome make a man, right? So if there's no Y around, the only one left to do that is a miracle by God. So he implanted the Y into Mary. I'm sorry, that's what I believe faith-wise. Can I prove it scientifically? No. All I know this is a Y chromosome that exists, and I believe it wasn't provided by a human male. Okay? All right, okay. Yes? Yeah. That's a little debate going on with that. You want to hear the debate? Go ahead, finish your question. Yes. Yes. Mm-hmm. Right. It crumpled according to John's gospel. It was just crumpled lying there. Where would that have happened on that particular cloth? That cloth was a fresh cloth that hadn't covered any other human. With another cloth. Yeah, okay, now I'm on the right wavelength. What do you want to say about the other cloth? On it. Oh, you're asking how long, why aren't the spices there? There's no spices. Yeah, because spices don't live for 2,000 years on a cloth. They disintegrate, dry out, and turn into dust. There's no spices. No, it's debatable, but here's what makes sense. He's covered in blood. You can't even see an inch of skin anywhere. So there's no way that is a condition that shroud was put on that body. Somebody made an attempt to clean him off. I don't know where the rag went. So the leftover places that were still notches and hunks of skin missing were oozing blood. That's what those marks are. Oozing places of a dead body, which goes on for even a half a day or a day. So all that is not, the blood had to be cleaned partially, but the ladies never would have cleaned that body. Yeah, somebody else had to do the big job first to make it as good as they could get it, and then the ladies came to clean up and put some perfume. But he wasn't there. That's logic. You can't learn that except the shroud is not covered in blood. Yeah, that's right. Linen shows that it wasn't a man. It was a special man. Absolutely, because they created an image. Dead bodies don't make images. Yes. Perfect answer. Here it comes. A website. Shroud.com. Tough to memorize. Filled with every book you ever want to order. And I'm Google. If you do Google Phillips, you can hear my talk better. I was over in Tampa about a year ago. It's super well recorded. Okay, I think they're recording it tonight. I think. Oh, good. Okay, well, this might be available on YouTube or something too, so that'd be nice. Thank you. That's really nice for me. Wow, what a bunch of nice questions. Let's get some more.
Do they charge every 15 or 20 years? Look at the,
No. First time I went, I waited in line 4 hours. 2010. 2015, I waited in line 15 minutes. They saw 3 million people saw it.
one of the early cardinals, I believe, money on the shroud.
By inviting people to see the shroud? Well, it might have happened 400 years ago. I don't know. Never happened in modern world. Who knows what the crackpots were doing then? There was a lot of them, right? That's why you exist. That's why Protestants exist, because of the crackpots in the Catholic Church. I'm sorry, Catholic Church, but it's true. I can say amen to that, too. Yes? Absolutely. No, because we don't know the mechanism of his production of Y chromosomes. He makes things out of nothing. Sure. Well, let's see. Joseph, our Joseph, he could have made an exact copy of his chromosome with a nice digital machine and put it right in with the X. Sure, I like that idea. How can we prove that? That's a great thought. Sure, that could be it. Okay, well, he's making a really good comment here that's got me thinking that it's possible. All right, so it's possible to get a Y chromosome off the shroud. It's positive. It's possible right now. I guess it's possible to find out who's Jesus's ancestor. Joseph's ancestor, right? So that must be possible. Maybe it's be impossible. Maybe they all disappeared. But if there is one person out there that is related to Joseph, yeah, you could get the DNA from the relative and maybe match to see if God decided to do that. Wow, if I read that there, I'm going to pass out on the floor. You're getting way over my head now. Oh, that really sounds good. Before the fall. Before the fall. So the offspring were tainted and the next chromosome produced by the daddy. I like that theory. Good. Nobody's ever said that. That's pretty darn cool. Yes. Well, it feels like it, it looks like it, but there's no number. I don't know of any aging process for cloth, but I don't know anything. Somebody that's a seamstress here might say, we just don't read enough. Of course there is. And I would say, okay. Look it up. Maybe there's a test for aging cloth. We'll tell the Vatican about it because it sounds like it may be a good idea. Well, there's all kinds of cavemen, their cloths running around that they have samples of. They could easily compare that to some modern cloth and make a connection somehow. I'm sure that's coming one day. Sounds like Star Trek, but I don't know. I did get to see those. Did you ever been there? It's really pretty interesting, yeah. Well, I have handouts here. So I give talks for free, and even on the internet if the COVID comes back. So I'll just put these, if we can just put them on the back bench or something maybe. Everybody can take one. It's what I do, why I do it, and everything. All right, I appreciate your questions and being so good and attentive audience. Clap to you.
Thank you very much, Doc. Your presentation is awesome. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you.
Appreciate you coming all the way
Thank
up
you.
here from Clearwater tonight.
It was worth every second.
Fantastic. Are there any other questions? Any other final questions for the doc? I hope everybody got a chance to put their name and email on the list, more for attendance than anything else. It's right here. Did anybody not get a chance to do that? Did it make it all the way to the front, Bob? Did it? Fantastic. All right. Thanks, everybody. We'll be back again next month, first Tuesday of the month. So the month of March. We'll see you then. Take care.